Jin-hyuk strides confidently towards the teleport, the newly acquired moonlight mirror held high. Behind him, the cheers of the crowd still echoed through the PvP arena. Yet despite the roar of the onlookers, Jin-hyuk's ears were tuned to a different sound, the hushed whispers of the constellations. For the first time since he'd entered the tower, they were openly discussing him. Too consistent. How is he so consistent? No flashy skills and yet he wins every match. What exactly is he hiding? Their murmurs pricked at Jin-hyuk's curiosity, but he kept his focus on the prize. As the moonlight bathed him in its ethereal glow, an object began to descend from the night sky. At first, it was no larger than a fist-sized orb, but as it drew closer, it expanded, becoming a radiant sphere of light. Then, as suddenly as it started, the glow vanished, leaving behind only a faint shimmer in the air. If anyone else had been there, they would have seen the divine ember suspended in midair. It was not visible to the naked eye, but to Jin-hyuk, it glowed like a beacon. The gift from the Flame Sovereign was his. With the mirror, he'd managed to impress the constellation, and now he was reaping the reward. When the arena fell silent and the spectators dispersed, Jin-hyuk left, his pace quicker than usual. The messages arrived one by one, each more astonishing than the last. The Flame Sovereign sends their blessing. Congratulations on your victory. Jin-hyuk nodded curtly in acknowledgement. He already knew what the blessing entailed. Then came the second message. The Flame Sovereign bestows upon you a gift. Jin-hyuk stopped in his tracks. A gift? What was it? He turned back to the arena, half expecting to see another celestial spectacle. But there was nothing. The plaza was deserted, empty. His gaze fell to the ground where a moment ago the mirror had been. And there it lay, a tiny glowing orb nestled in the dust. Jin-hyuk approached cautiously and reached out to pick it up. The moment his fingers brushed against it, the orb flared, filling his mind with warmth. It was power unlike anything he'd felt before, raw and untamed. Jin-hyuk stumbled, momentarily overwhelmed, but quickly composing himself, he pocketed the divine ember. Now for the messages. The first contained a generous 50 stat points, a sizable bonus, but not unexpected. After all, the Flame Sovereign was known for her lavish gifts. But the second message, the one mentioning a rare consumable item, that intrigued him. He clicked on it and a detailed description filled his vision. Divine Ember, a fragment of the Flame Sovereign's divine power. Effects: imbues weapons with flames of the constellation. Duration: 30 minutes. Cooldown: 1 month. Can be activated by channeling the item's energy. Jin-hyuk stared at the message, his eyes gleaming with understanding. A weapon imbued with the power of a constellation. It was an opportunity he couldn't pass up. His choice was simple. He would invest the stat points into insight, a rare attribute most players overlooked because it had no direct impact on combat prowess. To them, attributes like strength, dexterity, and intelligence were far more valuable. These determined the power of a player's attacks, their defense, and their casting speed. However, for Jin-hyuk, who was already proficient in these areas, their value was marginal. He needed something more, something the average player didn't have access to. Insight was such an attribute. It allowed one to detect hidden truths, uncover lies within the tower, disarm traps in dialogues, and even pierce through deception from other players or NPCs. In essence, it was a perfect complement to his existing skill set. As he made his choice, a faint smile touched his lips. He had everything he needed, so he looked up, his gaze fixed on the teleporter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next floor, ominously dubbed the Illusion Trial, was infamous for trapping even the most valiant warriors. It was a place where reality blurred and one's own memories, regrets, and fears manifested as tangible threats. Yet Jin-hyuk walked into the shimmering portal without hesitation. The air around him seemed to ripple, as if the very fabric of reality was distorted. But he pressed on, his steps unwavering. In the distance, he could hear the faint chime of a bell, marking the beginning of his trial. A warm feeling enveloped him, not unpleasant, but it made him feel drowsy. Jin-hyuk shook his head, dispelling the sudden lethargy. And just as he thought he'd stepped into the trial itself, a new message materialized before him. You are being observed by a new presence. The veiled observer, the words hung in the air, devoid of any warmth or cheer typical of the constellation's greetings. A chill ran down Jin-hyuk's spine. Who was this veiled observer? Why had they chosen to watch him? These questions buzzed in his mind, but there was no time to dwell on them. Suddenly, the air grew thick, and Jin-hyuk found himself enveloped by darkness. The familiar sensation of being trapped in the pocket dimension washed over him. But this time, it was different. This wasn't the first time he'd encountered this phenomenon. Memories flooded his mind, fragments of a life lived and lost. He saw a younger version of himself, full of dreams and aspirations. He saw friends, family, and places that once felt like home. But these weren't his memories. They belonged to someone else. Or did they? In the depths of his being, Jin-hyuk knew he was being tested, pushed to the brink of his sanity. Yet amidst the chaos, a single thought shone brightly. Player, Yu Hyun has entered the tower. The words echoed in his mind, pulling him back from the abyss. Hyun, his old rival, the streamer who'd vanished years ago. He was here too. Hyun, who had always been one step ahead of him, who had always been a step ahead. Jin-hyuk clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. This wasn't just a game. This was a reckoning. And as the illusion swirled around him, he knew he wasn't alone. Someone from his past was here too. Someone who held the key to his future. And with that realization, Jin-hyuk's determination solidified. He would uncover the truth, no matter how elusive it may be. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought with swords or magic, but with memories and regrets.